Our next checkmate is called Boden's mate. In Boden's mate, it's very similar to Blackburn's mate. We also have a bishop here controlling a lot of the squares next to the other side's king. However, this time, we don't need any support for the other bishop. We can directly go bishop to a6, for example here, and use this crisscross method to checkmate the other side's king. The only help we need is to make sure that the other kings cannot escape because there are pieces blocking his other side. Now in this position, white's already up a lot of material. In fact, he's up a whole rook and a minor piece. However, in this position, white also has mate in 2. So the idea is that we already have the bishop here lined up against black's king. Now, if we want to try to give checkmate, for example, using something that's not so forcing, for example, if we try to play queen to f4, black has a variety of different responses, including, for example, e5, that stop the checkmate. However, we can go for something more forcing here using Boden's mate. If this pawn wasn't here, we would be able to play the move bishop to a6 checkmate. Therefore, we need to deflect this pawn. This pawn is currently protecting the c6 pawn, so why don't we just take on c6? Now the only move for black is to take back on c6 with this pawn, and now look at that, this diagonal is open, so we can play bishop to a6 checkmate. Now in this position, black is down a minor piece. However, black can also use Boden's mate to give checkmate. So here, we want to play our bishop to a3 eventually, because this bishop already is lined up on this diagonal. However, the knight's already in the way, and also this pawn here is in the way. So obviously we need to probably take on c3 sometime to open up this diagonal. But the question is, when do we do it? So let's see what happens if we take on c3 right now. Well, if we take on c3 right now, and the pawn takes, then the knight needs to move. Of course, the knight should probably do something forcing to end up having bishop a3 be an option. So if we play something like knight to a2, well, white doesn't have to take on a2, because after it takes on a2, checkmate. But white can also play the move king to b2, and now this knight is still trapped. So black here loses even more material. If black plays the move knight to d3 check, then after bishop takes d3 and bishop a3, it turns out the king can actually escape because the bishop does not control this b1 square right now. So even after bishop takes d3, the king can go back to a1, and there is no immediate checkmate. Therefore, we should probably move the knight first. So why don't we take on a2 first, and force white to take on a2 with his bishop. This time, after queen takes c3, all these moves are forcing, and after b takes c3, bishop a3 checkmate. So Boden's mate is a pretty cool checkmate. It happens in this crisscross fashion where the king can't escape. And from these examples, I hope that you can see that move order is very important, especially with this Boden checkmate. It's a good tool to have, and hopefully you can see it in one of your games.